Senator Rhett, would you like to lead us in invocation?
Yes, sir, Mr. Chairman, bow our heads. Oh, Lord, we thank you for this day, another opportunity to do the people's will. And as we move forward, we ask that you touch us with your wisdom in our hearts, minds, and soul, so that we can wisely, just like Solomon, serve the people. We ask this through Christ the Lord. Amen.
Amen. I know our House representative is still on the floor, so we pulled him off the floor of the House to come up here, and I'm going to see if he can present this bill, and we'll look at it today. We may vote today, or we may need to wait, depending. We'll see how things are with the facts he presents. So go ahead. Our bill.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and members of the committee. I appreciate the opportunity to be here today. I bring you a bill today that I want to emphasize passed 161-0 in the House. We like that. It is a priority piece of legislation for the governor. And this bill very simply exempts up to $17,500 worth of military retirement income from state income tax in Georgia. If an individual then works in this state and earns from another source, they can exempt up to another $17,500. But I do want to emphasize they have to earn at least $17,500 in that other capacity in order to exempt up to that amount. That's very simply what this does, Mr. Chairman. This bill obviously has multiple intentions. We want to first reward the men and women that have made the greatest sacrifice to this country with a lifetime of service and a lifetime of military service. We also want to make sure that this that we, deal with the number one issue we hear from all of our constituent businesses and industries back home, and that is workforce. So these are men and women who are coming out of military service on average between the age of 42 and 47. They're looking for new careers, and Georgia business and Georgia industry needs skilled and disciplined workers. And this will certainly incentivize those men and women to stay and work in Georgia. We're also, Mr. Chairman, dealing with an issue and an inequity that exists today, particularly in border counties like my own and many others, some of that are here in this room today, where we have advantages currently for those individuals who live in adjacent states. Every border state that touches Georgia has already addressed this issue in some way or fashion, or they have no state income tax. And so we believe this is a very good policy for this state. And I mentioned earlier that we had great support, a very broad support and bipartisan support in the State House.
And I was with you in Warner Robins when it was talked about, and there was a bipartisan group down there as well.
Yes, sir.
Bringing this bill. Now, you've had this bill. Is this the same bill you had before?
No, sir. I actually have been working on this for 8 years. I've been here 8 years, and this is a different version. This is the governor's version. And I think what I would say the governor has very wisely done is targeted this measure toward that emphasis on emphasizing workforce development.
All right.
And so we appreciate that the governor has been committed to this from the time he first ran for office, and he's proving that herein.
All right. And I know he's anticipated in his budget, and
yes, sir,
and has a budget built with that. You've got in your folder and audit from the Department of Audits and Accounts sent to Ways and Means. They actually did a fiscal note on this one, believe it or not, over there. So
yes, sir.
We didn't have to do one. Yeah. DOAA.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, that's correct. There is a low of $55 million a year and a high of $58 million a year in the fiscal note from DOAA. That is correct, right. Mr. Chairman.
Questions from the committee? All right, you're number 10.
I don't want to commit the heresy of saying anything negative about the U.S. military, but these guys can retire after 20 years.
Yes, sir.
Service. So you can be dealing with 40-year-old people. So they're going to be citizens of Georgia enjoying the benefits of all all the services that the state provides, but paying nothing towards them. I don't even know if they want to be in that position, do they?
Well, sir, I would say, having worked on it a good long while, they certainly want to be in that position. I think that, remember, you point out a very good point, Senator, in that I mentioned earlier about 42 to 47 is the average age of retirement for this. Remember, this is only for individuals who retire from military service. And but I think my answer to that is that these individuals are going to join the workforce in Georgia. They're going to work. The average military retirement income is only $35,000 a year. That is the average for enlisted men. It is higher for officers. It's about 60 to 65 for officers on average. But so these individuals are going to exempt a great deal of their income, and not all of it likely, certainly not for officers. But then they're going to almost certainly, because of the age that you allude to, they're going to join our workforce, and they're going to be working in a new capacity in this state, and certainly are going to be paying taxes in a multitude of other ways in this state, living here and working here. But I respect your question.
So then I worry next year we come back and we say our teachers that can retire after 30 years, we want to keep them. So why would we make them pay income tax? And it's, I mean, if anybody that could be a worker in our state, you know, that is retired from their first profession, you're picking one of those professions over others. And it seems to me as our population ages, we start eroding that tax base. Anyway,
Yes,
I just wondered where it leads, and if anybody's, I'm not worried about the money, but it's almost a.
You're worried about the
equitable
slippery
thing.
slope.
Well, I think people ought
Yes,
to pay their fair share in society. You know, they're,
Yes, sir.
they're getting the
I agree.
healthcare, the roads, the bridges, you know, all the other services, law enforcement that we provide, but they won't be contributing towards, at least from the income tax.
Yes, sir. And Senator, when I first came here, there were, you know, we had those discussions as well. And I think the goal first was to cut taxes more broadly. We've done that. In 8 years I've been here, we've done a great deal of that. But I think we're talking about a special group of individuals who have sacrificed more than most for their country. They travel all over the country. They travel all over the globe, and they forego a lot of other economic opportunity to do so. We have today, you know, as small, historically, a very small number of men and women defend this country with our volunteer workforce, a very small minority of our people. And so I think this does make it prominent that we have great appreciation for them, and that moreover, we need them and their skills in our workforce. But I certainly am respectful of your questioning.
Does this bill anticipate any changes in people living here? I was trying to look at the fiscal note in that many people have said they wouldn't come to Georgia because Alabama, like a border state, like you said, has
Yes, sir.
a better deal for them than over here. You have any
Yes, sir. I
research on
think the
that?
expectation, yes, sir, is that we will do, is that will absolutely deal with that issue. So we have examples of that, especially in Savannah, Augusta, Columbus, Valdosta. So 2 of our states on the border have no state income tax. Alabama has totally exempted all military retirement income. North Carolina has now exempted all military retirement income. And South Carolina has a system, Mr. Chairman, it's very similar to this, a little, I think not as good as this, but they have a $17,500 exemption and is limited to that. So what happens is when you look at like in my community, I'm actually the largest private employer in the state, certainly the largest in my part of the world is Gulfstream. About 25% of their employees are military veterans. And yes, a lot of those folks live across the river because yeah, they can save money by doing so. And so there certainly is a disincentive for folks to live in Georgia. And to the senator's questions earlier, they're traveling and working in Georgia and using a lot of those benefits, but they're living in other states because there's a disincentive for them to live in Georgia currently.
Okay. Any other questions from the committee? Seeing none, is anyone prepared to make a motion? Or do you want to study this till the next meeting? How's everybody? Senator Gooch?
LC number, if we get it right. 1064. House Bill 1064 LC 432172-EC. Is that correct?
I think that's correct.
I'm making
I
a
agree
motion
with
to pass.
That's correct.
We've got a motion and a second, Senator Miller, and any other discussion by the committee? There is a fiscal note. It should have been in the packet, but it's there, yeah.
Mr. Chairman, if Senator Jackson, I'm glad to, I have a copy of it here, but it is a low
He's
of
got it.
55 to 58 on the high side.
Right, he's got it over there.
Million a year. Okay.
Okay, any other discussion? We've got a motion and a second. Senator Cowser.
Your bill says this is for individuals that are less than 62 years of age.
Yes, sir. Correct.
What's our current rule for people over 62? Is
Yes,
that
sir.
Already exempted?
Yes, sir. So actually, retirement income from any source. So it's not related to, it's not limited to military retirees. At 62 is already exempt up to $35,000 a year. And over 64, all retirement related income is exempt up to $65,000 a year. Senator.
Thank you.
Yes, sir.
All right. Any other discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? One opposition. Let the record reflect. I see the senator from the Lockheed area sitting in the front, and I can only guess why she's here. Is she your sponsor in the Senate?
She will be carrying this measure in the Senate. We're proud to say, Mr. Chairman.
All right. All right. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and thank you for letting me get back to the floor.
All right. Now, the next bill that we have here would make the last bill completely moot and unnecessary because it would exempt all income from taxes. So do you want to present it from there at the podium, whatever your pleasure? Okay.
Mr. Chairman and members of the committee, thank you for the audience today and for the hearing. I will tell you up front, I'm looking for an opportunity to get a conversation started. And I would be a little bit like Elizabeth Taylor said to her seventh husband, I won't keep you long. And her husband replied, I know what to do. I'm just not sure I can make it interesting. So if we could, the proposal or the idea is that our income tax system, personal income tax system is antiquated. And we'd suggest that, that with an income tax, we're saying to people, we're going to penalize you for working. What's the number one thing we hear out here around the state is we can't get people to come back to work. The income tax is burdensome on the middle class. It's less burdensome on the high wage earners and less burdensome on the low wage earners. The middle class is carrying the water. A consumption tax would broaden our tax base and give people tax them upon what they're consuming, which is, I think, a novel approach and a good idea. It would also incentivize people to save money. Until this pandemic, we're at an all-time low for savings in the United States of America. And in fact, I think it's been said on many occasions that the average family cannot handle a $400 unexpected expense. And that is a terrible situation for people to be in. This would not only be a fair way to fund the government, but it also be, in addition to that, we've seen research suggesting that it might expand the sales tax revenue by as much as $5 billion. Remember, we're talking about the middle class is paying the taxes, and they're squeezed by this antiquated system. In terms of viability, there are 9 states that currently do not have an income tax. In terms of competitors, our neighbor to our north, our neighbor to our south doesn't have an income tax. What state do we compete with most for economic investment and for investment and economic development? That would be Texas. And guess what? They don't have an income tax as well. Of those 9 states, this would level our playing field and I think make Georgia more competitive. There have been many discussions about how it would impact our bond rating, for instance. I'll point out to you that Florida has a AAA bond rating and Tennessee has a AAA bond rating and Texas has a AAA bond rating. And the bond ratings typically are not dependent upon the source of the tax. They're dependent upon what the options the state has to do in the event of a change in the income for the state, the revenue stream. I would point out to you also that in terms of volatility, and we all see that we've seen recessions come and go. We've seen economic good times come and go. And in terms of volatility, the income tax is less stable than the sales tax, and sales tax is more stable. And again, I mentioned our impact on the state revenues, and it's estimated by the Department of Audits and Accounts that the expansion of the sales tax would result in an increase in our revenue streams, and there would be additional questions and additional issues that we would want to work through, and some of those would be what are the highest, would we be the highest income tax, sales tax? And we would not. We would still be competitive. And I think personal income tax exemption would be an option that we'd like to have this committee weigh in and have again, a hearing on and a discussion on. And I would love to get the feedback and have an opportunity to move forward on this.
Well, I do appreciate you saying this is a starting point because it
Yes,
is
sir.
a major undertaking to look at this. And as you pointed out, some states do, such as Florida, which actually collects, the last numbers I saw, more taxes per capita than Georgia does, but just a different form and a much, much broader sales tax to services and things like that. I guess it would make all the income tax credits moot, which would make about half my job go away, which would be awesome.
We're talking about personal income tax, not corporate income
Yeah.
tax.
Yeah, I
So-
could. And if you would put in that bill that there's no sales tax exemptions allowed, then I'm done. I'll go home.
Gotcha.
I would appreciate that as part of it too.
And additionally, we've talked about other states we've looked at have franchise fees, which we basically that's a fee for doing business in that state based on the value of the business or the value of the input of the business. So I think those are issues that we'd like to discuss. And I appreciate your comments on it and would like to hear other comments as well.
And one other thing is, as you know, we tried at the Senate to have a broad, big picture look. And there was some talk from the other side about, well, do you want to do that again this year? And I said, no, it's too political this year to do. But I think that we ought to do that next year and have a big picture look at everything and say, what can we do in this state as we attempted to do before? So
I would agree, Mr. Chairman. I think one of the most productive things we've done in the 12 or so years that I've been at the Capitol is we had the Tax Fairness and Evaluation Committee that took about 2 years to go around the state and get input. And as a result of that, we changed a great deal of the tax structure in the state of Georgia. And in fact, if you will recall, those of you who are here, that when we first came back with those findings, we didn't vote on them the first year. And I had people at home say to me, you spent all this time, you went all over the state, you did all this to try to reevaluate the tax plan, and y'all didn't even vote on it. And I said to them at the time, when your legislature puts the brakes on to make sure they're doing the right thing, that's good. That's not a problem. That's a good thing. So,
all right, any questions from the committee? Senator Hickman there first, number 8, I believe.
Senator, I was just wondering, when we say income tax, are we talking about individuals and corporations? We just talking about individuals? One.
we would like to say individuals and corporations, but I'm not sure we can handle that. And I think also that whatever we discuss in this area, this is a transitional. I mean, this is a multi-year transitional change, sea change. You don't just You know, if you turn the wheel real quick, you're gonna throw everybody out of the boat. You know, that's not what we're talking about. I think that we need to have a genuine discussion about it and see if it's appropriate for Georgia. I think it has merit and it has value and deserves good minds looking at it.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Senator Gooch, did you have a question?
More of a statement. This one-page bill probably has more impact to the state of Georgia than anything we've looked at in 10 years.
Certainly.
I would love to see us figure out a way to do this. I don't know if we're willing to get there today or not, but I would love to see it happen. Now, the question is, you got to give up something. If you cut 14, $15 billion out of a $30 billion budget, you have to replace it. Is your plan geared more towards sales tax with getting rid of all those exemptions we talked about? And if what rate would you have to raise the sales tax from 4% up to what level do you think? What's your estimates?
There's a study here that or a review done by Department of Audits and Accounts that indicates that it might be somewhere around 3%.
3%.
Yes.
Before.
Yes, sir. But as you discuss and as you point out, you'd be talking about getting rid of some exemptions. You'd be talking about a broader tax. And again, as you also point out, this is a multi-year position. This is not something you're going to do overnight.
What's the tax in Tennessee? You know what their state tax?
I do. I got it here somewhere.
State sales tax, yes, ma'am. And then
Tennessee is 9.5
9.5.
Yes,
What
sir.
is it for Florida?
and Florida is 6.82.
Wow,
If it pleases the committee, that Tennessee, that's the combined.
got local and state.
state
Yep,
one
yep.
there.
You don't know just the state portion.
I do not offhand.
Would that flat tax apply to all purchases like the TAVT, for example? Will we have to increase TAVT on automobiles?
There are some things that are just sacred, Senator.
That was a trick. That was a trick question. That was a trick question.
Yeah.
Senator, the state sales tax in Tennessee is 7%.
7%. Okay. State 7. All right, good. So
And
we're within reach of doing that.
yes, sir. It is not that
Just a matter of-
outlandish of an idea, and
Right.
we will never accomplish anything that's really big and bold if we don't go to work on it and we don't try.
Right.
And we may get to a point where we say, well, hold on, maybe this is not something we want to do. But the fact is, we've never really evaluated it. Have we ever really evaluated it? To my knowledge, we have not in the 12 years that I've been here.
And I think Tennessee has a little bit of a dividend tax too, that I don't know the money that it brings.
You know, interesting, the process of taxes over the years, initially the state of Georgia taxed bonds in the bank and lawyers. That was the first two taxes. They're going to meddling now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
See, we're already carving out exemptions. That's what Senator Cowser.
Thank you. Senator, I applaud your efforts. You and I slugged it out together during that great recession.
We did.
That our state was 25%. And I remember being so fascinated that the sales tax revenue stayed steady, but the
Yeah.
income tax, it was a more stable source of revenue. So you're on to something. I've been fascinated to find out how Tennessee and Florida can go to zero and still provide the services they do. So I like your idea. This doesn't say it's gradual, though. It's
No, this is just an opportunity to get in front of the committee.
written.
Yeah.
Whenever the chairman's ready for a motion, I'm ready to make my own second.
I don't think I'm gonna.
That's a little scary.
Okay, Senator Orrock,
Yeah.
you number 2 or?
I'm number 2. Thank you. To the author. The conventional wisdom that I'm familiar with about sales tax and taxing sales and services is that low-income people are the most disadvantaged by that. Average households and low-income because they spend so much of they don't have disposable income to any degree. And the hit that it would be on their household budget would be enormous. And whereas the wealthy are not hit in they have plenty left over after they've met all their needs. And I mean, that is a great concern. And as it's been pointed out already, this just repeals the state income tax, doesn't do anything to replace that revenue for the
We
state.
just, a conversation starter, Senator.
All
Yeah,
right,
yeah.
because,
That question's, I'm sorry. go ahead.
go ahead.
I was going, that's so simple. I'm going to let my assistant here answer.
If it pleases the chairman, what we're talking about with the low income question is regressivity, but there's no tax is inherently regressive. What we're talking about today is obviously kinds of taxes. We obviously believe that kinds of taxes matter. We wouldn't be bringing this bill and discussing a consumption tax, but a kind of tax never matters as much as the rate. So if the rate, you find the appropriate rate, is not inherently regressive. And that's why we need a vetting from this committee and a deep detailed dive, because you find the right rate, it is not inherently regressive. It is also not regressive consumption tax. Once you understand that it incentivizes savings, and savings are just deferred consumption. So by incentivizing the savings, you're allowing lower income households to catch up, but there's nothing inherently regressive about really any tax if you find the right rate.
Well, I think there are experts that would take
Certainly.
issue with that.
Well, there's
If I could-
always
Yeah, if I
a
could follow up.
difference of opinion. Yeah.
Sure, could do another follow-up.
Thank you. The needs that we see our population having, the 7,000 people on the waiting list for waivers, those are folks and their families that are dealing with intellectual or developmental disabilities. We've got a big waiting list
Certainly.
that
I'm well aware of it, Senator.
and we've been doing 100 slots a year, and we're never going to ever eliminate that waiting list at that rate. There's been a plan put forward by my colleague Senator Harrell to do 1,500 a year for 5 years, and we would have eliminated the waiting list. And then we just keep up with the new folks. So that's one example of where we need to be, in my opinion, wisely spending state funds. The COLAs for retirees that were cut 12 years ago, our state retirees, a promise that was broken, that they would have a 3% COLA each year. And we took it out of the law when the Great Recession happened. And we're not fully restoring that at this point in time. We're taking some steps toward it, but I just point to those two as areas where we would be wise to invest. And I'll add one more, and that would be we're one of 2 states in the country that does not have a needs-based financial aid package that the state is funding. And we have tremendous workforce needs, but those people need to be trained and credentialed to take those jobs. And that's another challenge. Georgia and New Hampshire are the only 2 states in the country that don't have needs-based financial aid. So when we start reducing the revenues for the state, I think we have to be very clear-headed and look at what are needs that are unfunded at this point for our Georgia citizens.
And I appreciate the comments. I do think that for those that will attend school and get a B average, we've got one of the best programs in the country. And I almost wish there was a way that those that go there and then don't go to class, we could get the money back and have it for people like this. But that's a whole nother discussion. And what you're saying would be part of a big discussion, but
Yes, sir.
we're gonna move on. We appreciate your testimony here today, and hopefully we'll have another opportunity to maybe have a big picture look.
Thank you, Mr.
Oh, okay.
Mr. Chairman, I would ask that we take Senator Gooch and Senator Cowser with a grain of salt. And I appreciate their enthusiasm. I would point out that
Yeah. Well, I don't have
I
a
would-
fiscal note yet. I'm sorry. I just can't do it.
Well, I
So-
would point out that in terms of the senator brings a lot of fine points regarding the well-being of the state of Georgia and those who are less fortunate. And thank you for bringing those. Thank you. I'm sorry. Well,
All right, we're gonna move on.
we'll take Senator Gooch's whichever one had a motion. Let's go ahead. and take
We're
it.
gonna move on and we appreciate your testimony. We've got one more bill hearing today. And that is, let me pull that bill out. That's Senator Jackson. You've got LC 345793. Do you want to present it from there? Or you want to go to the podium?
Mr. Chairman, if I may, I think you had a couple of people that wanted to speak.
Oh, okay, I did have.
I
I'm sorry.
apologize. I'm going to make sure that.
I've only got one signed up here. If you could wait, Senator Jackson, Jim Duffy, is that who that is? You signed up to speak. And try to keep it somewhat short here so we can finish this meeting out.
Mr. Chairman and members of the committee, I appreciate the opportunity, which may be a little bit disjointed because I was on my way to the airport to deliver sandwiches for the troops down there when I got the call that this meeting was going to take place and that I might be asked to speak. I am chairman of or state director of Georgians for Fair Taxation. And we have been promoting on the national level since 1999 to enact a consumption tax on the national level, which has $23 million of research to determine the best form of taxing to generate the revenue necessary to run the government. And we have extended that $23 million worth of research to the state level. And we've come up with a way to change the tax system for the university, for the state of Georgia to run government without an income tax and also without the current sales tax. There would be no exemptions, no exceptions to either of them. Most of you probably already know that our current sales tax has around 140 exemptions, give or take a couple. In
I'm familiar with a few of those.
2002, when the Republicans took over the state government, in effect, there were 4 exemptions and exceptions. In the ensuing time since 2002, you can tell what happened as far as exemption and exceptions. So what we would propose is that the Fair Tax Act that has been dropped in the House side, House Bill 1459, covers all of the items that we've just discussed in great detail and would replace the current income tax, the current sales tax with no exemptions and exceptions. And the only time a business or a person would pay tax would be when they pay or buy something at the retail level. Businesses would not pay tax at all. They would not be taxed until they actually sold something at the retail level. All they would do is collect the tax and send it to the government. So it's very simple, very fair, and very transparent. As far as being where you could cheat on it, it would take 2 people to cheat, the retailer as well as the person buying it. Under our current system, it only takes 1 person to cheat, and that's the person that's supposed to report their income every year. It would also take into account the underground economy, the tourists coming through the state that don't pay any taxes now because of, or at a lower level. One of the things the question came up, there's two elements to it that would answer a couple of questions. One, the exceptions and exemption. The chairman said earlier that it would make the exemption of this taxes on the income for veterans moot, because it would. It'd make everybody a special interest. Nobody would get exceptions. Nobody would get exemptions and that kind of thing. Also, to the answer the senator's question about the regressivity of it, it would incorporate what we call a consumption allowance, which in short would be a prebate that would cover the taxes for everybody up to the poverty level. So there would be no taxes on the population up to the poverty level. And that's included in the cost, if you want to call it that, of doing the fair tax.
I remember that from years ago because that was a rebate was talked about. We're going to have to wrap it up pretty quick here. So
All right, well,
you
let
can
me
do a
just make one
closing.
other comment. In 2014, there was a subcommittee of the Finance Committee that was run by Judson Hill that did an analysis of the fair tax. And the rate of the fair tax at that time would have been 6.42% to cover all of the income for the current, at that time, current income tax and current sales tax revenues. So that would be the same approximation of what it would be today. And there are a number of other things that I wish I had time to go into that answer your questions,
Well,
but I would give you a brochure that would give you some
and
idea.
if we could have a big picture study, that should be part of it. Now, Judson, is he the one that gave me these 100 and something exemptions I'm dealing with right now?
Well, he was probably a part of it.
Yeah. Okay.
So,
We appreciate your
so you
testimony.
can thank him for a lot of things.
I see one more that we appreciate your testimony, and I hope we get a look at all this. I see one more that wanted to testify. I can give you a couple of minutes. You're not signed up, I don't believe, but somebody looked like they wanted to testify or not. Everybody good? Okay. All right. Well, we'll move on to Senator Jackson's bill. You both bring your expert, huh?
Yes, sir, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Chairman, Batman had a sidekick, Mr. Chairman, members of the committee, thank you for taking time out to hear my bill, Senate Bill 390. I'm working off of LC 345793. I think this is a very simple bill. My bill is sort of a compromise between the bills you've heard today. So it's kind of unique that the two bills, my bill is last of the two bills you heard previously. It also addresses some of the concerns previously put forth by the senator from the 46. Although I'm supportive of exemptions for a retired military, why not just pass Senate Bill 390 and it will exempt everyone over the age of 60 years old. As we all know, there's no state tax in the state of Tennessee. To our north, there's no state tax in Florida. To our south, currently, retirement income for seniors 62 or older is exempt at 35%. That jumps up to 65% for retirement income for those 64 or older. My bill would exempt all retirement income at the age of 60. It's a very simple bill. If you look at line 22, it is just 5 lines. It reads, all income received by an individual age 60 or older who is a resident of Georgia for a continuous period of 10 years or more. An individual qualifies for this exemption in a taxable year during which he or she is 60 years of age or older for any portion of such year. It's a very simple bill. I think this is a revenue enhancement bill. It will attract more people to our great state. Because these new people, people aren't going to just save this money. They're going to continue to buy cars. They're going to continue to buy homes. They're going to continue to invest that money back into Georgia. I think this bill is going to be attractive to people who are considering relocating from Florida or relocating to Tennessee or Florida or South Carolina. It puts Georgia in that conversation. At the age of 60 years old, people are beginning their second career. Why not make Georgia one of those attractive places that people can come and get some of the benefits of living in Florida or living Tennessee. That's it, Mr. Chairman, members of the committee. Very simple bill. I urge you to really consider this. And I'm open for any questions at this point.
One question I always have on this, and we seem to do this picking winners and losers all the time, but the poverty rate for somebody 60 to 64, 65 to 74 is a lot lower percentage wise than those at younger ages. There's a greater amount of poverty. So wouldn't you be shifting a bigger tax burden onto a group that has a higher poverty rate by eliminating this?
Well, sir, that's one reason I brought my assistant here today. Mr. Burns.
So the tough questions, it goes to him. I say,
Oh, yeah, he has some
I
tough
see how it
questions.
goes.
But no, the true answer is, I think that we're going to attract more people to Georgia to compensate for that shift.
Mhm.
People going to start considering Georgia more so than they was consider Florida or consider the state of Tennessee or consider the state of South Carolina. Georgia is the economic center of the South. And we need to attract those people who have those dollars to Georgia. And I think that it will be a cost neutral when
All
you
right.
look at it. Thank you,
Any
sir.
questions from other committee members here? We don't have a fiscal
We
note
don't have
yet
a
on
fiscal note.
this. And
With permission of the chairman, we can get one.
we're working on something along those lines.
Mhm.
Any other questions by the committee? Senator Payne?
Just out of curiosity, sake, how did you come, age of 60?
Well,
As opposed to 62 or?
Well, retirement is already at 62. We'll reduce it to 60. I think that's a good round number to start attracting people who are, and really we started attracting people at 50. We're really trying to attract people at 50 years old to move to Georgia because they know in 10 years when they become 60 or you're older, they're they have the same benefits as living in Tennessee or living in the state of Florida.
All right. Any other questions? Seeing none, we appreciate your being
you.
here. This is the third and last bill of the day, and this meeting will be adjourned. Thank you all
Thank you.
very much.
Thank you, Ms. Burns, for taking time.